Hello everyone. Welcome to my weekly stream. I'm doing 2 art streams in a row. Because, you see, the thing is that Dragon Age requires concentration and effort. Art clearly takes no effort whatsoever. But I am still joined by my regular co-host, Cybernetic Pink Eye.
I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello.
Anyway, so we're ignoring that. I love how...
time, everyone. See you next week.
Yeah, awesome. I was even kind of started to remark anyways, just before the stream started, that it said excellent connection, just as it was also telling me, please connect your streaming software. I was like, okay, I don't know how to tell you that the excellent connection that you're boasting about is my streaming software.
Oh yeah, that worked out.
But, streaming on YouTube. Hope you guys are all doing okay today. Today is an interesting day for me because, again, I'm feeling a little bit on the low energy side of things, so that tends to put a damper in doing active things like sitting and playing a video game because we all know how physically intensive that is.
I mean, they call it esports for a reason.
I suppose, but I don't have the reflexes for that, and I don't play those games that require competitive movement anyway.
Yeah, I mean...
So you may...
That's just it. Like, it's funny when you, like, mention competitive movement with gaming, because technically there's competitive movement in Dragon Age.
Sort of. And you know, I was originally thinking, I'm going to make myself some new sprites in addition to what I already have. But I just realized I'm going to be debuting a new persona look for myself shortly.
That's true.
I might just redo them.
I mean, you have a base here to work off of, so...
Well, yeah, to an extent. The phrase, it's just a game, is such a weak mindset. It really is. Games are absolutely mentally and sometimes even physically demanding. They take practice to get good. They are something that are not very well appreciated in terms of both the artistic value that they have as well as the community component. Being a Let's Player for 11 fucking years, I was just like trying to think, how long has it been? 11 fucking years. I can tell you how very directly connected the video gaming community really is. Sometimes that's not a great thing. Eyeballs Gamergate. Sometimes it's an excellent thing because you get all of these overlapping people with different video games making recommendations to one another, supporting one another. You know, it's one of those hit or miss kind of things, and for the most part, I have been able to see mostly the good. When it's bad, it's bad. But you don't have work tonight, Crackfox Jr.
Hey, I mean, on the one hand, I'm sorry you're not getting money, but on the other hand, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. Sorry that you're not getting money, so give me money. Okay, I'm not really not going to do that, guys.
I mean, I will say on the other side of that, you and I even recently watched a video by Jim Sterling on how, to an extent, like, yes, it is sort of just a game, quote unquote. I mean, in terms of, like, accepting a loss and moving on. Like, with, like, competitive stuff. Like, the people who are into the Major League Gaming stuff. Like, I mean, yes, you can be upset if you lose a round or lose, like, a championship or something, but, like, don't make it your fucking life to... Don't invest everything you are into one win or one loss, especially when it comes to something like gaming.
It's just a game mindset just kind of annoys me. I started watching Lego Masters with my family, and when a build got dropped and it was a sad moment, my dad laughed as if money wasn't on the line. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, it's a physical mini... Right. It is a physical minifigure, because it's a Lego thing. Yeah. Boba Fett is answering. I witnessed... But yeah, anyway. So I am going to actually take up what I was just about to suggest, which is I'm going to redo the sprites with my new persona look.
Fuck it, we'll do it live!
Fuck it, we'll do it. That's exactly what I just did, though, so fuck you. Fuck you, I say! I should probably pull up the reference for that. sketches, I think I dropped it under, which doesn't make sense because it's a full picture, but whatever. So here's a look of the new persona. Look.
Yeah.
Because my hair has gotten long enough again that I can tie it into a bun, but because my shoulder is shit, I can't tie it up into a bun on the top of my head. All I can do is tie it to the side, but it's still actually a nice look, so...
Yes. I will also say, for those of you in the UK, no, she's not flipping you off.
I mean, I get it, but no, she's just doing like a hand gesture thing where it's like, I do magic! Look at that.
Oh yeah. It's one of those things that, like, I always have to stop and think about, because I am so used to, like, American sensibilities and, like, gestures and stuff, like, because for anyone in the UK, just using your middle finger is enough to insinuate the insult, but for those of you who are not in the UK, it's raising two fingers that implies it.
I think you got those reversed.
No, it's the UK one that uses two fingers.
Yeah, you said for those who aren't living... Okay, whatever.
I was just explaining to the people who aren't living in the UK. Yeah.
Alright, let's see if I can actually draw my persona. That would be nice. Because again, I will say this, regardless of... Like, there's obviously more than a little bit of myself in the fictional Loreley character. I do still think of it as a separate entity.
That's fair.
Do you need to update the minifigure? That's on you, man. She's still gonna have relatively the same length hair. It's just maybe for when she's in your videos, she's got it down.
Yeah. I will also say you've also been getting a good amount of practice with Ophelia.
With what?
With just like, well, I mean, Ophelia and Loreley look fairly similar facially.
Well, they're not supposed to.
Ah.
So thanks for that. They look really similar! Oh, so I've got same face syndrome. Awesome.
I mean, just saying, like, you know, brown hair, you know, all that.
That's not a facial characteristic! And yes, they both have brown hair, but it's also completely different shapes of brown hair.
I mean, that's fair.
Especially now that Ophelia has her hair all, like, semi-possessed with ethereal energy or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. Have we told people about that?
I've kind of mentioned it offhand, but yeah, so... Officially, in the last session of D&D that we were playing, my character Ophelia decided to take a level in Warlock. And the way that that worked is basically she made a pact with Titania. So she is going the Archfey route for her patron.
Got a bit of a buff.
Well, sort of. I mean, I will say that the Warlock stuff in itself is not inherently a buff. It's just a level. It's just she's taking it early.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not inherently, but I mean, when you're chosen by a god of the Fae, that's a bit of an indicator that you're moving up in the world.
Well, they're not, she's not a god. God-like, but not a god. She's powerful enough to be able to lend her power to mortals or something like that, along those lines. And she's not someone you want to fuck with.
Yeah. I see. Thank you for the clarification, Crack Fox.
Two fingers and just middle finger are both considered flipping off, yeah.
Okay. My apologies.
Be sure to speak on the entirety of England, Griffin.
I mean, that's just it. Like, I remember the first time I even found out about the whole two fingers thing was when I was watching some comedy specials by Lee Evans, and I was going, what the hell is he doing with two fingers? Shouldn't it be one? And then I did a little research, and by that I mean a little research, and found out, oh, okay, so that's the equivalent.
Okay.
I wonder what Lee Evans is doing these days. For clarification, he's a stand-up comedian from the
Right.
UK.
If you want to make a deal for power, go big. I mean, she went with Titania. The thing is that technically what happened was that Titania contacted her first. Yeah. Sent out like a little object that was meant to find her like a champion, and Ophelia was the one to find it. And then she started getting dreams and then furthermore visions from Titania trying to express the, hey, so things are going to shit and I'm going to need your help to fix it. And Ophelia was like, what? I don't get it. So Titania got louder, and Ophelia went, "Whoa, shit, that's intense, bitch." And then Titania was like, "Well, fuck, I scared her off."
Oh god, I mean that's just it. It's basically because dreams play a major role in this campaign, and I find that more often than not, like these otherworldly beings trying to contact these kids through dreams is like taking a trip through the Safari Zone in the original generation of Pokemon. It's sort of like a 50-50 chance that you'll lure them in or scare them the fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah. And these kids have been pretty skittish, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them have been doing okay. I'll say that much.
Yeah. Oh god.
What?
Your try just made me realize something. It's just like Titania trying to reach out to Ophelia is just like an uber equivalent of like, hey, listen.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Uber Navi.
Just, hey, listen! No, I mean, Titania's supposed... I mean, so, especially if you've read that doc that I put together of her experience over there on the other side. Or another other side. Christ. Yeah, there's a lot of other sides now, and thankfully we don't have someone who's just had a recent near-death experience around here, so...
Yes.
Alright.
Lore is best Navi.
Hey, listen!
I mean, you do a good job of it.
I do make people listen, to the point where you stole my listen.
I mean, true. It was so effective I had to have it for myself.
You had to make people listen to you.
I mean, no one was at the time, so...
Well, fuck you. Alright, so... rounded body shape. So, let's see. What do I do with her arms?
Just maybe the do it to him pose?
I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do it to him.
You know, I only just realized or figured out this past month what the fuck that meant. I mean, I kept hearing people say, you know, I had to do it to him. I kept going, what the fuck are people talking about? But because like incidentally, I'd also been seeing that one image going around, and I'd never really mentally connected the two.
I don't even know why it is I had to do it to him, but I know that they're connected, but...
Yeah. I guess it was just because of the randomness of it, and people just started associating that phrase with that pose.
I guess.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see if I can do actual posing here. And then I've also got to figure out how to fold hands properly. What's the in my unpopular opinion spin-off in my popular opinion coming up? Because honestly, you have yet to express an unpopular opinion.
I was gonna say, that depends on what you consider the spin-off to be at this point, because I keep expecting to piss people the fuck off. And yet...
So far, well, you've had one person, unfortunately, who got pissed off, but we're not going to talk about that.
I don't think we ever got anyone who was pissed off at, like, one of
Well.
my videos in that regard, but...
Well, you had someone who was disappointed, but...
Maybe? I can't even seem to recall, but either way...
I'm not going to mention it explicitly, but anyway.
But, I mean, either way, it's been overwhelmingly positive in terms of the immediate reception. And that surprises me, all things considered. I mean, I'm sure it won't stay that way forever, but I've been very thankful that people have been enjoying the formatting for what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, you should do it more often.
Yeah.
I should do it more often. Bold claims only in this chat. Please no downvotes. I don't know, Griffin. Most of the things you said have been right. Hot take, YouTube, copyright, strict system, bad. Yeah, again, it's not a hot take. That's just a take. You know what really sucks? hands.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those, if you ask any artist what the bane of their existence is when it comes to rendering art, you're always consistently going to get hands.
And backgrounds.
Well, I mean, some people are okay with backgrounds.
You know what? That's fair.
Let's see. But the fun part is trying to figure out how to render hands in a way that makes sense. And I suck at them. I will say that in the Ballad of Loreley episode premiering tomorrow, although for those of you who are watching this in the archived version, it will not be tomorrow. Yeah. Perpetually, there's not always going to be a tomorrow for the Ballad of Loreley to be updated, but in this particular sense, for today, March 7th, 2020, tomorrow there's going to be a new Ballad of Loreley, and in that I actually ended up getting really frustrated trying to figure out how to draw a particular hand for the logician. So I not only tracked down a reference, but like what I even did was I found a reference and I literally pretty much just traced right over it. And the result was a hand that looked like a hand. So I'm even going to say this. This is actually a far more popular opinion than you might think it is, but yeah, in my popular opinion, use references. And in fact, if what you need to do to get done what you need to get done is to fucking trace it, do it. Trace the physical reference for something like a hand or posing or stuff like that. Trace it, and then make sure that you're adding to it, and not just like a recolor or something like that. Like, don't just take someone else's artwork and then be like, this is my artwork. Yeah. But, hands...
Like photographic physical references.
Is not illegal. How dare you look at reference material? Yes, practice... don't draw. How to draw hands in 3 simple steps. Don't draw. Yeah. It's not a lore stream until she rants about hands. Do I rant about hands often?
I mean, I guess ranting with hands is fairly common on both of us. For both of us, rather.
I suppose. But, it's good if you can draw it without reference, I guess, but, like... If you're in that stage where you're not happy with the way that you're doing hands, then it is also perfectly okay to get a fucking picture and trace over it and then use that as how to draw your hand. Because if you produce a hand that you're not happy with, you're always going to not be happy with it. And if you trace something, you're going to learn more and more easily how to actually render that thing, because you'll have seen the rules of how to do it. Like, again, if you want to draw anime, learn how to do figure drawing first. Because the figure drawing... Oh! Thank you, John! I have a simple process for drawing hands. 1. No. Lord Palpatine, do it. No need to make things harder for yourself. Absolutely, Raven. But yeah, no, it's... Don't make your life harder. If you need to get a fucking reference... Yes, thank you. If you need to get a reference for something, do it. Do not hesitate on it. Get the reference, trace over it if that's what you need to do, because in the end, you're still working to make an original piece of content. Like, there's not... Like, this is right now what I'm working on. I'm not pulling up a reference for it just yet, per se. But, like... This is going to be an original sprite. It is my persona. At the end of it, it's going to look very unique. If I pulled up a reference for how to do the hands, then it would still be a unique picture. You're still producing something completely original, even if you do even fucking trace something. Because amazingly, not everyone has a patent on a particular pose unless it's like a really blatant, like, overly... stylized pose.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. Look at any rant-sona out there, mine included, and you'll notice they all sort of draw from the same fucking library of poses, and yet they still have their own unique flair to them.
True, although, I mean, your rant Sona is, still kind of unique in its own way.
True.
I did the art for
you
it.
Them after all.
Yeah. I get to make the call on that. Oh, thank you, Crackfox Jr. That's a handy tip right there.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's...
unrelated, but John, has anyone ever told you look like Ross O'Donovan?
No! You could just draw an angry guy. I did. That would be the logician right there.
Good timing on that.
No!
What the hell?
What the hell was that? So you guys have seen the drawing. Yes, they have. Well, there you go. Also, is that the correct size? That is not the correct size of hands for that face. See, one of the other things is also learning about proportions relative to the things that you've already drawn.
Yeah. Also, I think you got like 4 fingers on that hand there.
Yes, there are 4 fingers that I have presently on the hand. I'm not finished drawing the hand.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
It's like, yeah, I think you've got 4 fingers. Yes, there will be additional fingers. But the thing is that they need to be overlapping each other in such a way, and I'm going to be rendering the other fingers before I start doing that.
That is fair, I apologize. Just wanted to make sure.
See, amazingly, when it comes to doing art, not everything comes out all at once.
True. Let's see. You know what? Yeah, that's a consistent mood for me, Boba Fett.
Okay, that's a little bit too bent. Alright. Sorry.
No worries.
Again, I'm not digging up references for this because I'm an idiot.
Well, like you said, it's an ongoing process.
Yes, being an idiot is an ongoing process.
Oh, that too, but...
Oh, God!
Bless you.
Lord. But yeah, no, I do my best to do the best that I can with my art, but I know my limitations. But it's one of those, like, if I had the ability to actually, pay a good artist to do my work for me, I would. And there are times when I have, see the channel logo and the YouTube banner. Those are both things that I actually commissioned, but...
Can we give a shout out to that person, by the way? Because I don't think they get enough work.
I mean, not only do they not get enough... Well, they get plenty of work. They just don't get enough credit.
True.
Yeah, so Melodiva is my villain wife, and I love her, just straight up. That's a declaration that I could make at any time. But especially relevant to what Griffin just brought up. She is a fantastic artist. Like, again... The art for my logo and the banner were both done by her. I gave her a set of guidelines, and then she took something that was kind of like, and then she polished it and made it literally glow.
Yeah, damn good singer, too.
Oh, God, fuck yes. Keep in mind the Griffin minifigure for people who don't know. Okay. But yeah, so fantastic artist, and she works on a fuck ton of internet projects and groups and all of that stuff, and she always delivers high quality. And then she doesn't give herself enough credit for what she does, and I'm like, Binge, get yourself some self-care, like Christ. Alright,
boy.
But yeah, so if you see Melodiva's name on anything, be sure to show her all of the support and all of the love, because she deserves to hear about how awesome she is at all times. Now, I have no idea if she would be listening right now. Undoubtedly, she is busy, but just know, if you're ever watching this in the future, Mel, I love you. buying your way out of a situation. I mean, the thing is that, again, it's not about buying my way out of the situation. It's about wanting to produce the highest quality product that I can.
Yeah, and as Laura said, it's good to know your limitations.
It's good to know your limitations, but thank you for implying that my art is, in fact, not all that great.
No, what I mean is that, like, if you know, like, okay, I'm not good at, say, properly articulating how I want this background to look, or if I'm having trouble, like, trying to get this concept out there. Like, I may be good at one particular... I'm good at what I usually do, but if there's a thing that's outside my usual wheelhouse, I may need to call in additional resources or help for this.
Right. And it can be hard to get into the habit of just asking for help. I run into that a lot too. Oh, Lord. Well, thank you. I try to do my best with it, but I still have a long way to go before I consider myself good, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm glad that there are more and more, like, works out there that are, I guess, artistic works, rather, that are stressing the necessity of asking for help. And I guess primarily I'm bringing that because I just want an excuse to talk about Steven Universe future.
I see.
Because that boy needs some help.
Yes, he does. I have not seen the new episodes, the ones that just came out.
Sealed.
Yeah. But, yeah, I know. And that series has made it clear that all of the shit that was done to Steven over the course of the original series is not okay to do to a fucking 14-year-old kid.
He needs some milk.
He needs some milk. Anyway.
Oh, Lord. But yeah, I'm so fucking happy that more and more shows, especially kids shows, are being a lot more Well, I suppose it makes sense that because there's more and more people from our generation actually making the shows nowadays.
Being a lot more fuck?
Well, making the shows.
Right, never mind. You cut yourself off in an interesting way. That's why I was pointing it out.
Ah, okay. But yeah, there are more and more people from our generation making shows that demonstrate just how we all have limitations, and we all sometimes, well, more often than not, we can't do everything on our own. And rather than sticking with, you know, the perpetuation of things like toxic masculinity or just things that kind of stress the need to do everything on your own, there's more and more people going, no, bruh, I got you.
Hello, welcome, Rubrina. Steven needs a therapist, then Milk agreed. One of the jokes I plan to do in the future is to get Laura to say 2 lines of dialogue and then ask Lantern to voice Lore for the rest of the video, because the voice acting budget ran out. Huh. That would be interesting, although I am frightened by the prospect of Lantern doing an impression of me.
It frightens me too.
So Griffin, remember when you're like, I only count 4 fingers on that hand?
Uh-huh.
Alright, let's see. How do I want to actually... See, whenever I do this, I actually fucking... Okay, so that's how I want to do this, I think. I pull out my own hands for reference. So... Thumbs are something that are a slightly different creature from the rest of the hand.
Yeah.
One of the defining traits of humanity, in fact, is our opposable thumbs.
Well, yes and no.
I know that there are other creatures that do have it as well. I'm just saying one of the things that we associate with our own humanity is, in fact, our opposable thumbs, because it gave us the ability to manipulate things in our environment and to be able to begin crafting things like tools.
True. I mean, that's the funny thing, though. Like, if the gauge of humanity is thumbs, then the great apes might have a leg up on us because they technically have 4.
Well, I guess you're using a lot of interesting forethought in this conversation. But anyway... stop! Stop! Don't! Desist! Cease! Hands are also impossible to do in perspective. And what? Oh!
John donated another $5.
Yeah, it just popped up for me. Oh, that echo there. I know the convo hasn't really been related to this, but Planet Comic-Con is happening soon, and I was wondering if either of you are planning on going.
Boy, here's the thing. I can't travel all that much.
I can't travel at all. And yeah, Alpha Chase, I am joined by Cybernetic Pink Eye, aka Griffin.
Yes. I will say that if I do plan on going to any conventions in the near or immediate future, it'll probably be Rose City Comic Con. If not this year, then maybe next year. I mean, that's the only one that comes to mind in terms of feasibility.
No. No, I don't like these hands. I don't like them. I don't like them. No, sir, I don't like them.
I'm so glad we got that fucking...
I can actually fucking play that right now, by the way.
Please.
So during a session, right at the beginning of it, in fact, we usually like take a few minutes to kind of, you know, shoot the breeze a little bit before we actually get started with a D&D session. And right as Luke, one of the members of the team, started the recording, well, I'm going to let this play so you can hear how this conversation played out. I don't like it.
Don't like it one bit.
I don't like it. Not at all.
No, sir, I don't
No,
like
sir,
it.
I don't like it.
God
God fucking damn it!
God.
I got that one on tape.
Yes.
Our laugh even synced up, and that happens way more often than I would like to admit.
Yeah.
So that happens far more regularly. Like, that was the one that got recorded. We've had a few of those actually get recorded as well. But, that is a common fucking phenomenon.
In case you hadn't caught on. Also, Boba Fett, I will say I would recommend continuing Steven Universe, but at your own pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't try to avoid spoilers if at all possible, because it's pretty rewarding if you get there on your own. But again, it's one of those shows where don't feel pressured to get into it if you're not already 100% on board, because that pressure, more often than not, can kill your motivation.
Alright, so I'm trading one particularly complex hand folding for another.
I mean,
Assistance is futile, we are many, we are synced. I mean, it is, like, occasionally we'll have other people join us, but it is primarily just the two of us who get synced up the most.
yeah, we are pretty much the eye of the storm.
It really does often end up feeling like... I got a weird accent there for a second. Anyway. I went vaguely English. Alright. So, how do I... Alright. So, hands...
Hands indeed.
I'm like going silent as I'm concentrating. I will finish Universe at some point. Yes.
Surprisingly enough, art occasionally requires concentration, as fucking baffling as it may sound.
Well, yes and no, but the thing is that one of the reasons why art streams work is that usually there's some kind of conversation or banter going on. Oh, am I fucking this up already?
Boba Fett, the last thing I saw involving Star Wars was The Rise of Skywalker, and if you want my opinion on that, go ahead and watch my latest video.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go check out Cybernetic Pink Eye on the YouTubes.
Yes. As an additional bonus, anyone who contributes to my Patreon will be getting access to my videos a full 5 days before they go public.
Nice, that's more than I do.
I mean, that's just it. I figure, like, full 5 days early access gives me time to look over any hiccups that might be in the current draft of the video that I have up. I can listen to, patron feedback, because I remember one time I misspelled a patron's name in the patron credit screen. So I want to make sure I avoid things like that in the future, if at all possible.
Wasn't that person someone that I pointed out to you at some point?
Possibly? I forget.
Was it a certain son?
I mean, again, I'm not going to name names. Suffice it to say...
That's what I was saying. Was it a certain son? That's all you... If that doesn't cue you, then that's fine. Or tip you off to where I mean.
Get the reference, but regardless...
Never mind. It was in...
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. Point being, I want to make sure I do right by the people who are paying money to see my shit.
I'm going to immediately step in and say, y'all, don't even joke, promote something. Like... unless I'm actually getting paid for it. I don't like my name or my stream being used to promote something, especially if I do not know what it is. I know that I know that you're doing a funny. I know that it's a funny.
It's a meme at this point, but even so.
It came out in 2019, yeah. But yeah, no, so as it turns out, I would love to get sponsored deals, but I'm not important enough and popular enough for them to want to be like, hey, let's give this person money so that she'll promote us. That's it. And of course I know that immediately puts me into the sellout category, but it's like, exactly how do you think people who do these things earn their, like, living? Like, I know that sounds really confrontational. I don't mean it confrontationally. I don't mean it confrontational way. It just comes out that way, I guess. Let's see. Position-wise, so that it's here, then I guess, okay.
Those hands are looking good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more comfortable with these, and they feel a little bit more... They feel pretty in character still.
Yeah.
It's a fairly relaxed pose, but it's about as relaxed as anyone else giving a presentation.
I mean...
Which is what these are largely going to be used for.
Yeah.
My favorite content creator's not dead, yeah. What's the problem with sponsors? There isn't really. So just work for exposure, bro. That's the problem. Yeah, if you ever offer someone exposure... Excuse me!
Bless you.
I felt the sneeze coming. Anyway, I mean, that's just it. I will say that I'm not going to pick up a sponsor that I don't actually at least somewhat agree with. Somewhat disagree with. Because, here's the thing. I'm not going to sponsor something like, for example, PragerU. Like, I don't care if they actually paid me $1 million. I'm not going to be like, yeah, check out PragerU. Huh?
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
PragerU.
Probably a good thing, I imagine.
PragerU is I think it's effectively a YouTube channel where they post the propaganda for the rich people who own it. So basically they'll put out videos that are like, yeah, but are women really oppressed? I mean, let's look at the facts.
So JonTron.
Well, yeah, basically, only it's the old rich white man version of all of that. But see, what they'll do is that they will pay women and, any kind of minority status individual to put words in their mouth to endorse their point of view. Like they make the option of, well, if there's one flower shop owner that sells better than the other, then it's not the fault of that flower shop owner that the first one is bad at it. And it's like the ignoring the context that it's not that the other one was bad, it's that first one had an advantage or was able to secure a private deal that improved their business at the expense of the other business. And also ignoring that any kind of monopoly creates a situation that leads to late-stage capitalism, which is where we are right now. Late-stage capitalism being basically the death knell of pretty much everything that we hold ourselves supposedly to.
Basically what we're saying is money bad.
Money bad. I would do away with all capitalism if I could. I feel like literally the system is broken. It's not necessary anymore. It's actually so completely outdated as a concept that it's doing more harm than good by persisting.
Really calling it a system is giving it too much credit.
What it is basically like, on the surface, it's supposedly the guise of giving credit for the work that people have done or the talent that they have accrued or something to that effect, where they are given some sort of like compensation and value ascribed to what they're doing. But the thing is, we are in a society that values a particular kind of labor from the masses over anything creative, among other things. We no longer have the need to distribute currency in order to support the entirety of, at least in the case of the US, and quite possibly even the rest of the world at this point. We have the means to feed the entire population of the world at this point. But we keep throwing it out because people want to get as much of that implied value currency. So imagine, the whole concept of seize the means of production for yourself is basically, instead of handing it off to the select few who get to lay claim to it, let the people actually take these machines that develop and process all of these things that we need for our everyday life and just redistribute it to the people that live and need to live. Look, I know that it's become a meme to say we live in a society, but that's just it. People make that a joke because it is in fact a statement that we do, in fact, live in a society. And a society is dictated both by the social norms imposed on us from those that stand to benefit from us believing certain things, as well as the overall general consensus of the populace as to what we believe actually should be governing us. That is what a society is. You can make $100K every single day from the day you were born to the day you turn 100, and you would still be poorer than Jeff Bezos doesn't even have to be an example of, first of all, because he's making way more than that, like, every second.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be just Jeff Bezos. It could be one of the lowest billionaires on that fucking scale. Jason Entertainment, overthrow the government and establish a new communist regime. Like, communist, no. Socialist perhaps, but communist is in itself actually fascism and capitalism dressed up with a pretend oligarchical pretense.
Yeah.
It's not actually socialism. It's socialism co-opted for the purposes of pretending that it's socialism, but is still in fact fascism. See, I've actually done the research on these things. But you can, yeah. So I do believe seize the means of production for the masses, and we will actually live in a world where people don't have to starve or live on the street, where we can have the healthcare provided at not insane costs. I mean, there are countries that have that and are absolutely baffled at a lot of the things that we in the United States just sort of take for granted. Like,
so TLDR Bernie 2020.
yeah, I do definitely support that. Which, if you are of voting age, don't be discouraged by these early primaries. I know that's a really vague term, but the people who stand to benefit from you giving up on voting for Bernie are absolutely going to be like, look, Biden is already ahead. Sanders is going to lose. They want to say that to make you scared to actually vote for the candidate that you want to vote for if you wanted to vote for Sanders. They want to spook people into voting for Biden because that is not only the status quo candidate, but also the one that is most likely going to benefit those who are still, like, I say that even if Biden is the fucking candidate, vote for him in the election. But until the primaries are over, you can still vote for Sanders, and I believe that he is the one who will actually be able to enact the most change. Yeah, this is a crash course in history, politics, society. Communism works as long as every single person is of equal moral standing. Unfortunately, communism exists, again, as another state of fascism. That's just what I'm saying, is that as it exists, as it was established, is that it does hand off power to a select group of individuals who, if you treat every household as exactly the same, you're not actually distributing according to the needs of the people so much as you are distributing according to the needs of your finances. But, well, that got political. Yeah, the thing is that the way that the state of the world is, and especially the way that the United States is presently, we need to be a little bit political. Because it's been standing back and being like, oh, well, politics, I don't like politics, it's all stupid, it's all just, a handful of people deciding everything for anyone. And it's like, well, yeah, how do you think they got that way? Because we kept stepping back and letting them run the show. And I say this as someone who is also guilty of exactly that. It's like politics is its own game, but generally speaking, as long as there's someone in charge and the system will work to actually, check anyone. And then we have seen, especially with this particular term in office, that in fact the checks and balances that we thought actually existed no longer exist. Because we have devolved into a two-party system when it comes to the establishment of our government and the way that it works, because it has become so politically motivated and motivated by money, that's again the pitfalls of living in a capitalist society, we have created the point where someone who has blatantly broken the laws, who has blatantly caused problems, who is not only unpopular with the general populace, but is literally completely incompetent as a president, is being defended by those in his party because it is more politically savvy for them to stand up for their party leader to get what they want. Love for your people should trump love for your country. Absolutely. Nationalism is a terrible fucking idea and is literally, again, one of the foundational blocks of fascism.
Yeah.
See, I know that I make funny videos on the internet. I know I make entertaining stuff for, like, the Ballad of Loreley and even, like, I need to get back into... I have another Symbolism and Lore episode pretty much ready to go. I just need to get the editing for it done. But I have very strong passionate opinions about the way that society works and the way that we have been kind of complacently going along with the status quo. I have had my eyes opened up to a lot of the corruption that has been going on pretty much this entire time as a result of it leaking over in blatantly evil ways as of recently. We are at a place where we do have to take it seriously. We're at a place where if we don't take it seriously, we're already at the point where people are dying, suffering, and we have literal concentration camps in this country, and people are just kind of brushing that off because it's an inconvenience to the party line. I I know that this is a very serious topic and I don't want to spread anxiety. I am terrified of this. I am terrified that we have literal concentration camps and people are like, well, but maybe they deserve it. I'm like, there is literally no circumstance where people deserve this. And the fact that you're making an excuse for it means that all of the Nazis were bad propaganda that you swallowed growing up were more about the name than it was the actual motivations. You would have been a Nazi. In fact, you are.
Yeah.
And even if you wouldn't be a direct Nazi going out there and doing it, you are supporting the Nazi party, effectively, at this point. There's a reason why neo-Nazis have had a resurgence recently. You're welcome in England if you need a place to go. I mean, it's not that I haven't considered that. England isn't much better, though.
Well, nowhere is much better.
Nowhere is much better. Well, okay, that's not true, though, because I could go to, like, the Netherlands. I could go to Sweden. Both of those are better options. I just don't speak those languages, unfortunately.
True, but they also have their own fair share of problems.
Every country has its own fair share of problems, but at least in some of them, there is, in fact, universal health care, you know?
Well, I guess that depends on what you mean by universal. Because, like, a lot of people claim that Canada has universal health care.
No, I wasn't talking about Canada. Canada is America Light.
Yeah? I mean, I was even about to get to that. I mean,
I apologize for cutting you off in that regard. It's just, you're using a
well, it's something I'm
completely...
used to, so.
I was just going to say that you're making a point that's kind of technically irrelevant to the point that I was making. Because those countries actually have worked on, like, their societal strength. And they do have, in fact, universal health care. They do have a much better system that even people who aren't native to their country, they go in to get cancer screening and they only have to pay, like, $3 for it. And they apologize, I'm sorry, but because you're not native to this country, you do have to pay, and it's $3. To an American, that is unfathomable.
Yeah.
The idea that we could just go in and get an important screening done and that it's just taken care of. You don't have to pay that much. If we only had to pay $3 for something, like for something related to our health, it is mind-boggling to the point where people literally don't believe it can happen. The Tories can and will destroy the NHS. Yes, that's what they're working on. I know Brexit, it's not as bad. It's not as bad, but it's like a step behind what America is presently doing. They're using us as a model, and the model is unfortunately causing a lot of destruction. Obviously, like I said, I feel very strongly about all of this. I apologize again for having cut you off, Griffin, if you want to make your point about Canada and its system not quite being as good as a lot of people would pretend that it is.
Well, I mean, I believe the point was already made at this point.
Alright, I do apologize again, but it's just... no system is ever going to be perfect so long as we live in a world in which capitalism is in fact the status quo. And even in cases where they've done away with a lot of the effects of capitalism, where they have actually shifted in a progressive direction, they still have to function in a world where money is still the status quo. I would want to get rid of all currency, all concept of currency. We don't need it. You know why we don't need it? Because we already have the means to feed, clothe, shelter, and take care of all of our populace without having to exchange any money. Had gallstones last year, he had to pay for everything. The first hospital they sent him to didn't have the right equipment, so he had to pay for the ambulance to the correct one. Yep.
Yeah.
I can even speak to... So, my mother fell. Now, my mother is in her 60s, and it's no joke for her to fall. It's no joke for anyone that age to fall. And when she fell, she ended up breaking, I think, 4 of her ribs. She went to the hospital. They gave her Tylenol and discharged her. That was the only treatment they gave her. And they basically implied that she was only there to try and get pain medication. That she was basically effectively faking it. Because they didn't want to, one, treat her, and two, because of all of the scaremongering about the opioid crisis has made a lot of doctors hesitant to actually prescribe pain medication that would actually do anything to help someone in that position. And so they discharged her with Tylenol, and it made her so embarrassed that when she fell again, she didn't go to the hospital. She refused. And of course, after a certain point, she kept falling, and they still could not convince her to go to the hospital because she was so humiliated from that experience. And then, finally, unlike the fourth time that she fell, they finally took her to a different hospital, one that was a little bit further away, and they actually gave her treatment. And there should never be a case where someone who is in that kind of pain has to find a single compassionate hospital that will actually treat what's going on. And I know this is an intense conversation. I know this is not the entertainment that some of y'all come here for. I know that I get passionate about this stuff.
Well, I mean, that's just it. If no one gets passionate about it, then nothing is done about it.
But I speak on this because I guess I've got a platform for this. But I am sick and tired of people suffering for completely arbitrary reasons. Like, there isn't any reason to have more houses than homeless people. There isn't a reason to keep throwing out food and to build spikes around the dumpsters around grocery stores so that people who are homeless or who just need to who can't afford to walk into the store to buy it and are willing to take shit that has been thrown into the trash. No, they can't even have that. They can't even have the insult to their dignity of having to root through a dumpster for food because they put spikes on the outside of their fucking dumpster. With the U.S. lack of medical care, let's be glad there are no major viruses going around right now. Yeah, well. Oh, yeah, let's also not, comment on the fact that they're like, yeah, no, there's an epidemic, but we're not going to give you treatment unless you fall under very specific conditions. They made sleeping rough illegal for homeless people. What are they meant to fucking do, float? No, they're supposed to die. And I know that's a real blunt way of putting it, but yeah, no, what they want is for these people to disappear. I remarked when I went up to visit Griffin in Portland that because there was a pretty significant homeless population, and you could see them. There are 10 cities not that far even from where Griffin lives. And sorry. I know this involves you technically. I'm just saying.
I was gonna say, this is my city.
Yeah.
Because that's just it. Portland legally actually protects homeless people to the extent that they can legally sleep on the sidewalk, so long as they're not obstructing entry into buildings or things like that. Like if they're sitting up against a building, then yes, they can call someone and ask them to move. But in terms of sidewalks, no, they're protected.
But so, yeah. I'm sorry. I know this is again. I'm furious, and I was remarking to Griffin at the time that yeah, you can see a lot of homeless people, and that's not a great look. But every city, more or less, has the same number of homeless people. The only difference is that they make it so impossible for you to be homeless in a public space that they vanish. You don't see them because they're just dying silently in the worst possible way, instead of at least being able to form communities with one another.
Yeah, and I will also say that Portland also has more than a few systems for giving out food to people who can't really afford it all that well. So while the situation is by no means ideal, it's at least a fuck ton better than other major cities.
Yeah. But the very fact that we have so much in place to protect food or protect even things that these companies are no longer going to make money off of. We have ways to punish people for trying to survive for something that they're no longer going to make any money off of, but how dare you try to take something to survive when they can't profit off of it. That is what the status is, and that's why I think do away with capitalism, do away with money, do away with currency. We have the way to actually feed and house and clothe and take care of everyone, to provide everyone with medical care. We have all of the ways to do that presently. There is no need for money to be involved at all outside of people to have a fucking high score and to have more influence in society. And that is exactly where we have corruption in the first place. That is where the suffering starts. When there is an inequality between the members of your society within your community, you immediately create people who want to maintain their position of authority. And in doing that, they are much more likely to try and keep other people away from their position of authority, which is exactly what creates these systems in the first place. So, I have seen the number of viewers for this stream drop the more that I talk about this, and I understand.
Correlation there.
I know, and I know that this is an intense topic of conversation, and I do apologize to those of you who are watching this who are like, ooh, this is a serious conversation. I wanted to be entertained. Yeah, I get it. I'm supposed to be entertaining you. Literally, the subject for this stream, the category is entertainment. But, since the subject came up, I have some strong feelings on the subject, and I do want to see societal improvement. And if there's anything that I have to my advantage in this world, I mean, it's certainly not my health, it is not my physical endurance, it is not my, I don't have a lot of things that I've got going for me. If I'm going to be participating in the rebellion against the status quo, it's going to have to be with my words. So if I can use my words to encourage folks to be mad about the way things currently are in the status quo, if I can encourage people to be mad enough that they want to do something to change the way that this status quo is, then I consider that to be an achievement. I mean, to an extent anyway. People need to speak out against this shit. They do. I absolutely 100% agree. And we don't talk about it because it is an unpleasant subject, but the more that we don't talk about it, the more people get away with the shit that they're trying to pull. I love that I am in the process of drawing my avatar, my persona, with a pleasant expression as I'm talking about all of this. Like, this is like literally the opposite of a rant-sona with someone literally ranting.
I mean...
But yeah, I'll move off of that subject and get back to more pleasant stuff now, but
yeah, we might want to call Salt Shaker here.
So to speak. And I do appreciate those of you who decided to stick around and listen to all of this, but just generally speaking, I want to see things change for the better. I want people to not have to suffer. Having experienced some of that firsthand, having watched other people suffer for it, like, you know, I have no patience left for society to decide whether or not it actually wants to keep up with progression. It's like, either keep up or we'll make you keep up.
I mean...
If you want to hold on to an archaic idea, be prepared to have to defend it against people who will be demanding change.
I mean...
It's a calm sona.
Yeah, I saw that.
Anger, the treatment of the homeless, yep. When the homeless are visible in your city, it's a good sign.
Yeah. You know, I think all that salt made me thirsty. I'm gonna be right back and get some water.
That's a good idea. But, anyway, all y'all are lovely people, and I'm going to even say that, like, I know that I say that frequently, but legitimately, I was even saying this technically earlier this morning, I have a weird sleep schedule. That the reason that I continue on doing what I'm doing at all is because of the support that I've gotten from folks who watch the channel, who support what I do, who even when I go on hour-long rants about stupid shit. Maybe I'm also angry that the people refusing to wash their hands out of some stupid contrarian protest. Yeah, people are like that sometimes. And it's unfortunate. There are some people who, like, the very... Well, I'm going to move off of the subject. I was going to bring up anti-vaxxers and how stupid they are and how their stupidity is affecting our safety as a society, but that conversation has already been had a million times in a million different ways. But, we do, in fact, live in a society, and the reason why this is a problem is because sometimes society takes stupidity as and values that over the actual survival of its populace.
So I like how I come back from after we just agreed to move on past the ranting, and I come back to society agrees to value stupidity.
I mean, I was jumping off of the subject. I was just kind of doing the graceful landing instead of just abruptly stopping talking about it. I was saying literally the part that you missed was, in summation, society is stupid.
Yeah.
Because it values stupidity. That's what I was basically saying. That's the part you missed, so anyway. Oh, hi, Donna.
Hello.
Welcome to this. Write down the mic after each singer. I can't type. So society, huh? Yeah, we're gonna move on.
Moving on past that. In fact, I think I'll even change the subject to something that, honestly enough, ironically enough, probably sparks more intense feelings than what it should. People in chat. New York pizza versus Chicago pizza. What's your take?
I mean, that's a direction I suppose you could take it in.
I mean, I'm just genuine. I feel like we need a palate cleanser.
Sure. Hey, people in chat, what do you think of pretzels? Salty, right? Do you like the hard kind that you can get from, like, the grocery store, or do you like the soft kind that you can pick up from, like, the fucking carts? It angers me how nice your drawing is! Let's rant about that!
See, and that's actually kind of the point I was hoping to make, Crackbox. Let's see. Chicago. Pretzels are great. Agreed.
I mean, I'm never going to, unfortunately, dissociate pretzels from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend now.
Oh, God, that's fair.
But, I mean, that's just it. It became a symbol for her twisted mind, or whatever.
Yeah.
But also a symbol for her growth as a person. Pretty much every time she was going through a period of growth, pretzels were there.
See,
So.
now I'm imagining pretzel crust pizza, and that's got me...
Yeah, that exists.
Does it?
Yeah, I know that Little Caesars had it for a while.
Really?
I think they still do. I don't know, I haven't checked, but I remember that being among their $5 pizza things that you could pick up. Or it wasn't $5, but yeah, you could get the pretzel option for the fucking crust on pizzas.
Nice.
Something pineapple pizza. Look. Such is our twisted fate. Yes.
I mean, I'll say this much. I generally go by the Night in the Woods pizza scale when it comes to my preferences, which is to say,
Pizza good.
Yeah. I have no particular allegiance either way. I generally prefer a bit more bite to my pizza, but I don't really have any preference because I've never lived in Chicago, never lived in New York, and never lived in Detroit. Just, I like pizza and pizza good.
You know
No matter
what?
where it's from.
A thought has occurred to me. Pizza with donuts on it.
I mean, yes.
So, like...
Yeah, it would depend on the type of donut, I feel.
But, no, here's my thing, though. Imagine if you had a particularly really spicy pizza with donut chunks on it.
I mean, like, I could see, like, maybe some chunks of powdered... Because that's just it. There are always sort of interesting, like, takes on pizza that kind of balance the sweet and spicy as well as protecting against burn. Like, I know there's this one place near New York that has the cold cheese pizza, which is basically designed to protect the roofs of the mouths of drunk college students who order it.
Ah, so Donna, you make an interesting point. So, interesting thing with pineapple, if you have it with salt, it actually mitigates a lot of the trying to eat your face aspect of the pineapple, which is one of the reasons why the flavor works real. Salt is a great balance for a lot of sweet things, especially. But I remember that salt is one of those things that with pineapple actually helps to balance out and really bring out the positive flavors of the pineapple.
Oh yeah, I mean, because that's literally what salt is designed to do. Like, yes, it has its own inherent, flavor to it, but in moderation, from a chemical standpoint, it sort of accentuates the flavors that are already there.
Exactly. That is what salt is supposed to do. So salt is great. It's not the only seasoning, but especially in things like when you're doing baking and you're making something sweet, it's actually a great idea to, it's literally part of the requirement, have salt in it. There's a reason why saltwater taffy, for example, has become a thing, although obviously it's no longer really made saltwater taffy. But there's a reason why salt works really well. Like salted caramel, for example, is a really popular example. If you put salt on something sweet, it's going to bring out the flavors of both, and it's going to, it literally unlocks your mouth to a higher level of flavor.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my baby girl! It's my baby girl!
I mean, that's just it, Don. Adding just enough salt will help accentuate the flavors that are in that batter.
Yep.
And goddamn, now I just want to watch fucking British Bake Off in
Yeah.
the stream.
So, if it's there, I'll eat it. Yeah, I don't default to pineapple either, but I don't get the hate for it. So I'm sorry to derail from that conversation, which is good enough, but so controversial. So little story time, and I promise this is actually okay. So my baby girl Zelda, she unfortunately recently ended up getting an infection in her ear. And I was keeping an eye on it, and it wasn't getting any better. I wasn't sure if it was just a temporary thing, or I didn't know if it was an infection just yet. But when it wasn't going away, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take her to the vet. Took her to the vet, and she was completely docile and very sweet. She didn't fight, she didn't claw, she didn't bite, she didn't run around the room. She very patiently cooperated with the techs and the vet. And even with all of the poking and prodding and swabbing her ear for examples of what they needed, and even having her temperature taken, which if you know what they do for pets to have their temperature taken, you know how invasive it is. American food is better than English food.
It depends on where you are.
Yeah, there's some. I like certain English foods too, but the reason why American food is the way that it is because it was actually a combination of a lot of different societies and a lot of different cultures actually kind of mixing all of their stuff together.
Also, we put sugar in everything, so...
No, we put high fructose corn sugar in everything, or corn syrup. There we go.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
Anyway, so she was very, very good with all of them, and we talked about what we're going to do for treatment. I ended up opting for an option where they put a dose of it in her ear, and then next week I come back and they put another dose in the ear, and we'll see how it goes from there. But so they're like, okay, so we're going to go take her to have her ear cleaned out so that we can administer the dose without it being interfered with. And the tech was like, okay, so this is probably where she's going to start getting upset with us. And she leaves with my cat, and then she comes back with Zelda and asks, okay, is she okay? Is she just a total pushover or something? And I was like, well, with people, yes. With other cats, no. She will absolutely slap the shit out of another cat. If she feels comfortable enough with them anyway. She is absolutely a little princess. But she was such a good girl. She put up with so much. Go for the taste. Stuffed Chicago-style pizza is amazing. Haven't you listened to Alistair? British food. We put everything in a pot and boil it for many hours until it's a disgusting gray color. It's completely inedible. That's how you know it's done. Yeah. Anyway.
I like how we went from salted caramel to your cat's ear infection.
I mean, it's because I saw my cat, and I wanted to comment on it.
Fair.
That's
By the
how
way,
that's how conversations go sometimes, Griffin.
That's fair. I will also say, for anyone who wants to get just a general, especially if you live like outside the U.S. and you want to get a better idea of like the different types of variants there is with like a lot of food culture here. Like even if we're specifically talking about pizza, like do yourself a favor and watch the Pizza Show with Frank Pinello. Basically, a 2-season series currently that goes into all the regional variances in the U.S. as well as some places in like Rome, like a few different places, other places in Italy, Korea, the UK, and there are other shows to that effect, like the Burger Show.
Mm-hmm. He likes
Burger
food,
Show.
in case you haven't guessed.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm a big sucker for the food corner of YouTube. In case you hadn't noticed, but I've got a major fucking soft spot for shows that go into like the history and regional variances of specific foods because it gives you a much bigger appreciation for it.
Sorry. I saw that Unirob was here.
Unirob.
Hi, Unirob!
Yes.
Me.
Speaking of shout-outs, go subscribe to Unirob.
He is actually the one who did the original composition for the theme song that you hear at the end of all of Griffin's videos.
That's correct.
And
He's also
I've...
done stuff for Tom Ska.
That's true. Absolutely. I was even gonna... I mean, not really in scale with Tom Ska, but I've also commissioned him for something that has yet to appear yet, but it will be making its way into the Ballad of Loreley at some point.
Yeah, basically what we're saying is give him your money.
Give him your money and commission him to write music for you because he is damn good at it.
Yes.
That is an interesting spelling of your name, Griffin.
I was gonna say, he's damn good at music, not so much spelling.
Oh, come
I
on.
joke, my dude. I'm just busting your chops.
Yeah. Well, feel free if you. I think you can.
Now
If
he stole your listen.
well,
Uh,
yeah. Oh God, it just popped up for me. You're tired. That's fine. If you have a video, I think you should be able to post it in the chat. If not, then well,
oh yeah.
it's past midnight. Yeah, it is. How dare you be on another continent?
Yes.
I should probably draw clothes on Loreley. What?
Just saw Don's. Hi, Grisfin.
Hi, Grisfine.
Fine.
I mean, he fine, but okay.
Listen.
There it is.
Boy.
There it is.
Yeah. I heard that too.
No. No.
No,
No.
It is you who must fry.
Did you just pronounce it Griffin? Here you go. No, that wasn't the cat singing.
No. That's because the cat has a better singing voice.
Oh, stop! Stop! Stop!
I mean, you're just mad because I'm not wrong.
Let's be sure to record this. Anyway.
They don't watch your stuff anyway.
Well.
Oh, boy.
Do I need to make a theme for the cat as well? I mean, honestly, here's the thing. Cats are actually a thing in the Ballad of Loreley.
Yeah? Oh, boy, are they.
They are literally her spy network, which we are going to be introducing, canonically.
She is Legion.
I mean, she just distributes her energy between all of these creatures. It's not quite a familiar-esque situation, but close enough. She is able to somehow communicate with them and understand what they are saying. She has distributed her power through them to be able to enable this.
I mean, as a man who grew up in a house full of cats, it seems pretty familiar to me.
You
Me?
are not allowed to say words anymore.
Never stopped me before.
I know. I'm trying. God knows I'm trying. I need practice doing clothing folds.
Spy Kids.
What?
My mind just, because I've seen people in the chat talking about like the Kitty Spy Network, and then my mind automatically went back to that period of cinematic history we usually don't talk about called Spy Kids, and my brain tried to work in a cat pun there.
Okay.
Exactly.
This is my chosen entertainment partner, everyone.
Yep. I understood that reference.
Yes. But my voice is lovely, says Robrina. I'm not even that much of a soprano. I'm a mezzo soprano, but like the top end of my range it starts getting pretty strained. I know my limitations, and I know that I have been careful not to strain my voice going higher than I possibly can. But I do take pride in what range that I do have, and I try to challenge that every once in a while. I mean, that's just it. You don't need movies to be anything more than just something entertaining. That is my standard. Is it entertaining? Fucking yes. Now, is it entertaining in a way that makes you support bad things? Like, are you supporting, like, genocide or some shit like that? Then no, that's not good. But yeah, it doesn't have to be good. Anyone who comes like, oh, like the new Ghostbusters movie that was all women was bad. It's like, since when were the original Ghostbusters good?
They weren't exactly Citizen Kane, which I'll even say is a little overrated.
A little bit. But like, for example, a movie that was a cultural phenomenon at the time that it came out, but was more often than not made fun of, but that we watched through recently and I found that it held up, was Evita, the musical, the movie adaptation of the musical starring Madonna.
That was a pleasant surprise.
Like, it was one of those things where, you know, it is a pleasant surprise because you're kind of like, oh, it's Madonna, and like, you know, it's a musical being adapted into a movie, except that it was done really well.
I mean, back when musical movies actually had some fucking thought put into them.
Well, that was actually during the era where musical movies were kind of not exactly en vogue. They were very much they had been kind of overdone and made into garbage by like the 60s and 70s. So movie musicals ended up getting this really shitty reputation as a result of that. Through the 80s and the 90s, they basically kind of became the musicals are for silly people kind of thing. But we have been seeing a resurgence. Baritone. Oh, thank you guys. Sorry, I'm just catching up with the chat. Laura, your voice is so pretty, thank you. Yes, Rob, you have a lovely singing voice. I'm going to say that. Is coming out really nice. Thank you, Crack Fox Jr. for the art. Laura's a great singer. Changed my mind. I'm not going to try and change your mind on that. Best movie of all time, Muppets Treasure Island. I don't disagree. Tron Legacy is an underrated masterpiece. Changed my mind. Movies that bring together large groups of men are often not good and just... You know, that reminds me of, like, the Fight Club phenomenon. Because here's the thing. It's a great movie. And even I think it's either the creator of the movie or the author of the book who says that if someone lists it as their favorite movie, run. Because unfortunately, the inherent message about toxic masculinity and in the movie, and especially more obviously in the book, ends up getting drowned out by the people who look to the fucking Tyler Durden character as a fucking model for behavior.
Yeah, that even reminds me of this fucking Tumblr post I saw, which was like a starter pack for characters where if you idolize them, you're missing the point. And among them was that dude from Fight Club, as well as fucking Rick Sanchez.
Yeah, and it's like, again, characters who are great in their context because they are either terrible or it's very clear from the narrative that you're not actually supposed to admire them.
Yeah.
But, like, people latch on to these characters. I was going to say glom onto them, which also works. Glomming onto them. So, like, I recommend watching Fight Club, but don't use it as a model for daily living. It's a terrible idea.
And I say the same of Rick and Morty. I recommend watching the show, but just pay no attention to the fucking Szechuan sauce motherfuckers and don't fucking idolize anyone in that show, but especially not Rick Sanchez. Entertaining as he may be, he's not someone to look up to.
Movie glorifies violence and a loveless, cynical view on everything, plus boobies and trash humor. Man, a masterpiece. My brain is huge, so what are my balls? Sorry, I know the politics talk is over, but I want to pass on this quote someone just said to me, we'd be less activist if you'd be less... Yep, that's exactly it. We'll be less activist if you stop being so shit. But that's just it. Like, So, for example, and Griffin knows this, for example, I love a particular story called Hanayori Dango, which has been adapted across multiple platforms. Like, there's the manga itself, then there was the anime adaptation, then there was the Japanese drama adaptation, the K-drama. There was an original Chinese version of it that they've actually updated again. And the main prospect of it, the main concept, is that you have this asshole rich dude who falls in love with your working class girl. And I love the story and I love the concept, and I have stolen this concept. Wait, no, this is being recorded. I'm totally original with my concept. But anyway.
In your defense, 90% of K-dramas have also stolen it, so.
Yeah, well, to an extent. But, like, the basic premise is actually that this character is abusive, but over time learns to kind of change the way that he behaves because of how he feels for the main character. And it's a terrible person to model yourself off of, but I love trash husbandos, okay? Okay, sleep well, Unirob, if you're still around whenever that actually filters around. But...
I mean, I get what you're talking about. I mean, for me, I guess the trashiest I think I can tolerate my husbando is fucking Ramsey from Epithet Erased.
Okay, but... How dare you call him trash?
Well, here's the thing. He is a self-described rat-faced man who is pretty much made a living off of conning people.
That doesn't make him trash. Look, am I having an aneurysm here? What the fuck is going on?
What is your power? Are you a failed magician? Go watch Epithet Erased.
Yes.
Season 2.
I love that fucking show. Anyway. I mean, plugging Epithet Erased, hey, if you want to fucking sponsor me, the people behind Epithet Erased, hey. But
here's the thing. I would be fucking over the moon if I could voice someone in that, so.
I know what you mean. Watch it because it is basically taking the concept of, like, almost like a D&D session. The way that they...
based off a D&D campaign, I believe.
Okay, but anyway, I'm in the middle of talking, so shut up. But they set it up that way so that they use a lot of, like, still images, sort of like visual novel sprites, and then occasionally it will have animation or moments of, like they do move things around on the screen in a way that makes them feel like they're coming alive and feel truly animated. Yeah. They do a fantastic job with it, and I am very happy to recommend it to people. Let's see, is there anything else about her outfit that I need to include? No, we're good.
My mind just flashed back to, like, even, like, I think the first or second episode was like, beep, beep. Oh, no. Not again.
But, good show. Anyway, where was my point just now? Before all of the Epithet Erased stuff. Oh, yeah, so enjoy your media, but don't take it too seriously. Like,
exactly.
Okay, that's not even true. Take it seriously, but look at it critically.
Yeah,
like enjoy it for what it is, but also be willing to examine the parts where it doesn't quite match up.
Oh yeah, I mean, perfect fucking example. I've recently been introducing lore to Gurren Lagann, which while it is one of, if not my favorite anime, has its fair share of problems.
To say the least.
Yeah.
Including the 14-year-old girl being the sex pot mascot for the series.
Oh, that's the fucking best part about that. They never in the show actually say she's 14. You have to look that shit up, which is sort of devious in and of itself.
Yeah, so they never even announced that this is an underage girl.
Yeah, I mean, that's Japan, unfortunately.
They have a problem distinguishing that girls... Well, okay. I will say that it's not that they have a problem with it, it's the otakus and the people who are most buying into this culture, unfortunately, where they've become so desensitized to it that they're not even recognizing it anymore. Yeah. But because those are the people who are spending the most money on these shows, the people who are making these products know that the best way to get their money back on their production is to pander to that crowd.
Once again, watch my content on YouTube if you want to see my opinion on the waifu wars and all things related to that. I mean, I'll even say I might even stir the pot of weeaboo anger later this week, because my next time yo is also going to be on the subject of anime.
So I'm just catching up with the chat. Check out, okay, so some people take the be critical in a way that's like, if anything is slightly wrong, I will hate it and destroy the shit out of it on tungle.com. There is a middle ground. This is just what I mean by when I say be willing to be critical, but also when I say critical doesn't mean you hate it. Critical means that you are looking at it and making comparisons and actually examining the content for what it is, instead of just passively consuming it. Being critical of something doesn't mean you go into a fucking that guy with the glasses-esque rant about it.
I was even gonna say, please do not associate being critical with the Doug Walker approach.
Because you can be, like, that's just it. Being critical is, for example, what Griffin does on his channel with the In My Unpopular Opinion. It's and critical.
Your channel with symbolism and lore.
I was about to say that, as a matter of fact. I look at a critical analysis of, well, symbolism and lore in the media that we consume. And it is, like, sometimes it's positive stuff. Like, it's like, these are tropes that are part of our daily life. There's not an inherent value one way or the other. These are just things that we have as a society sort of integrated into our public consciousness. And dissecting, like, do you simply accept this as is, or do you think about it and realize what it is that's being conveyed to you? Because there can be multiple layers to a story that you may not understand at a first glance. There have been so many times where I have absolutely called the shit out of the direction a story was going, just because I am so familiar with all of these different tropes when it comes to writing. And it is... Being critical in itself does not mean being mean about it. Like I was saying. It just means you think about it. And this means that you can have an absolutely terrible movie. An absolutely terrible movie. I'm sorry, I had something decide to catch in my throat there for a second. And it doesn't have to be a good movie. It doesn't have to be... Like, I just watched some Godzilla movies, okay, when I was last over with Griffin. Some of them were good. Aspects of them were not.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be good. It's enjoyable. And that is ultimately what you can take away from it. And you can still analyze the shit out of it. You can still, like, be critical and be like, so this aspect didn't work, and this is an outdated philosophy, etc., etc. But, like, you can figure out on a case-by-case basis whether or not something is good or bad. This is why I hate CinemaSins for existing, because it has literally put forward the concept, and I don't care if it's supposed to be a fucking satire thing, because it's not satire. They clearly mean...
dead, so...
Yeah, there's no way to be satirical when the world is the way that it is. Yeah. But, like, they've completely butchered the concept of it being a satire to the point where it's indistinguishable from, like, your standard review, especially because they express a lot of the opinions that they make, like, in their, like, I think it's like their vlogs or whatever after they watch a movie. they'll actually just take whatever they criticize and put that into the thing. But the concept that a trope exists now means that this is a problem. And it's like, that's really not how that works. And hey!
Hello, Emily.
It's Emmy.
Ah.
But Emily, go VO! But yes, Emmy, who you may recognize from many works across the internet. She is in a lot of things. Incredibly talented voice actor and singer.
Go check out her stuff.
Absolutely. Something caught him thinking about Suicide Squad? No, because I've never seen it, and I have no intentions of ever seeing it because I already know that I don't want to see it because of the way that they treat Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Who is one of my favorite characters of all time, and I do not tolerate shitty portrayals of that woman.
Apparently Birds of Prey was better.
Yes, much better. Much better, and I still need to see that, but that's going to have to wait until it's out of theaters, so...
Yes, which reminds me, I forget the name of the actor who played Harley Quinn in that.
Mm-hmm.
But she was recently on an episode of Hot Ones, if you want to catch that one sometime.
Ooh. Well, we'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Hot Ones being a review show run by Sean Evans, who basically takes the interview celebrities and gives them increasingly spicy hot wings.
Yes. Anyway. It's got a little sidetrack there. But you can... you making you blush. Yes, because you're a fantastic, talented person and I loves you. Anyway.
Absolutely.
So there are movies that I watch because I love the multiple layers and the presentation and the artistic value of it. And I think of things like, interestingly enough, Evita or Schindler's List or some of those classic movies where they're structured in such a way as to analyze and take in everything that they are talking about. And then there's some movies, like, I think it's 1989 Clue,
Yes.
where, now there's a lot to actually dissect about how good of a movie that is, but on the surface, it is a weird fucking romp. It is absolutely a comedy. It is absolutely not meant to be taken seriously, but it's a well-structured and well-written movie. Is it good? I don't care.
I would argue yes, but...
I love it.
I mean, that's just it. Like, because I had heard about the movie, and I love Tim Curry in general, but I'd never actually seen Clue until I had the opportunity to, thanks to Laura showing me it, and it's one of my new favorite movies of all time.
Yes.
Because it's the sense of humor and the pacing is right up my alley.
Yeah. Trying to think of other movies that, are they good? Well, who cares?
I mean, one immediately comes to mind, and that's Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh my god. Okay, so this is one of the things that we, and again, this is subjective opinion, so we're gonna say that right up front. It's one of the best made bad movies we've ever seen.
Yes.
The production values are fucking amazing. They know their cinematic language.
Yeah, the music's fucking on point. The actors give fantastic fucking performances. The characters and story kind of suck. Like, really, really suck.
I'm even gonna say John Morrison, who said Harley Quinn is a maniac, not a prostitute. She's not even that much of a maniac.
She's a doctor.
She's a doctor, but, like, so she's not exactly... She would be what you would consider to be... I mean, I hate the manic, pixie, dream girl, etc. trope, but that's kind of where she falls in, where she's actually a very quirky, counterculture sort of person.
She's a weird kind of victim of reverse Stockholm Syndrome, when you get down to it.
I mean, to an extent, but she is, in herself, a fantastic and well-written character. Well, usually well-written character, at least in her initial inception.
Yeah.
God,
I love that she was so well received that she was made fucking canon in the comics.
Like, she started in the Batman animated series. Like, that was an original character, OC Do Not Steal, of the creators of that show. Yeah. And then she became so popular that the actual comics were like, okay, we'll make her canon then. Mm-hmm. And I love that, because I love Harley. Again, just in general, she is one of... I could go on an hours-long rant about Batman, the animated series as a whole.
or make a video about it.
I should, and I will at some point. But anyway, it is one of my favorite series of all time because it's also, that is my Batman. That's like my canon Batman.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy is in my heart and will always be Batman, just as Mark Hamill will always
be the Joker. Yeah. Like, pretty much there's no one who will ever top. And I will say this, I'm not even dissing all of the other portrayals of Joker because they can be a difficult character to do well, and some people do.
Yeah, and a lot of them do damn good jobs for him. For me, I think it's mainly the nostalgia mixed with just, I guess, the timelessness of it and the fact that it's persisted for as long as it has and hasn't gotten old.
He defined Joker in such a way that he is a character that you love to hate, but also that has this weird sympathetic edge to it. Like,
oh, yeah.
He's completely unsympathetic as a character, and yet you can't help but still feel bad, especially like in that Killing Joke clip that you love to trot out, when he actually gets serious for like 2 seconds and is like, I'm sorry, but I can't do that.
It's far too late for that.
And just when he gets serious, it's like, oh shit. But yes, Mark Hamill's Joker is, like, for me, quintessential Joker because he manages to tap that balance between mindlessly cruel and genius all in one.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a hard fucking balance to actually achieve. A lot of people try it and they think that madness, or evil madness and genius are just wacky, crazy, random do shit all the time, or randomly doing things kind of a thing. But no, genius in its quirky eccentricity manifests very much in the way that Mark Hamill portrayed Joker this entire time.
Yeah, I mean, plus the motherfucker has Arkham in his name, so it was bound to work out.
Yeah, oh god, he does.
Yeah?
I never realized that.
You never realized that?
Look, just like I didn't pick up that Weldon was Samuel Iskandon.
Wow, spoilers.
Who the fuck cares? We already know. We're the ones who are in the campaign.
That's fair. I know. Just busting your chops.
Although technically that's kind of spoilers for Ballad of Loreley, but I don't think it's going to come up. I don't think that Samuel Iskandon is going to come up in the Ballad of Loreley.
As a valid plot point, probably not. But, oh god. But yeah, like fucking, like again, just follow Mark Hamill on social media. The man's a treasure.
He is. Like, even to the point, like, I remember he liked the one tweet by J.K. Rowling, and people were like, hey, dude, maybe don't do that. And he's like, he was like, what? What happened? And then listened to people when they said this is the context in what she was saying, and he actually went and said, so he made this public statement of, like, so I liked a tweet that I liked the general message of, but it's been brought to my attention that it is not as positive a message as it seems, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and again, Mark does his fucking research. Like, I remember when someone wanted him to do an ooh-woo comment, and he's like, what is this? I want to make sure I'm not doing anything. And people actually spent the time to explain it, and then he posted a picture of, like, ooh-woo made with the fucking McDonald's arches.
Yes. So as soon as he actually, he'll make sure that he's not saying something that's just going to offend people.
Yeah.
He does care about people, and I love him, and I can see why he and Carrie Fisher were such good friends.
I think one of my favorite examples of, like, older generations of people, like, actually doing research and growing from, like, their initial stances is when Frank Oz was commenting about the public portrayal of Bert and Ernie being a gay couple, where he's like, they were not written as a gay couple. This isn't what's happening. And then he actually listened to people in the comments, why it meant so much to them to see them in popular media, and he actually went back to say, I feel like I've grown from this, and it's nice to know that even though this was not the original intention, that so many, gay couples out there have connected so deeply with these characters, and that makes me very happy.
Mm-hmm. I heckin' love Mark Hamill. Same.
Hell yeah.
So I think, okay, let's see. So trash characters versus good, like, again, things can be good or bad. It is all very subjective, and you don't have to meet an arbitrary standard of goodness. And I will say, I mean, there are people who are quote unquote on my side when it comes to the social, political or socio-political spectrum, who take it a little bit too far or are not in themselves actually educated on the subjects that they're talking about. They're just sort of parroting points that other people have made and far better than them, but they don't actually understand the content of what they're saying. And so they don't understand that someone who says one thing isn't instantly a Satan incarnate person. Use your judgment. Try to figure out what someone is or isn't saying. But, like, be critical, absolutely. Think about these tropes when you go into it. This is one of the reasons why I want to do symbolism and lore, and I need to do it.
And yet another subject I've also done a video on.
But you don't have to be completely immaculate or pure in terms of your presentation. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to make a statement like, as you pointed out, like with Frank Oz being like, well, they weren't written as gay, but since it's important to you, I hadn't thought of it that way. So if for those of you who have such a deep connection with this concept, then absolutely. There's freedom in interpretation. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I even found a copy of the tweet because I remember copying it. Yeah, here it is. A last thought. If Jim and I had created B and E as gay characters, they would be inauthentic coming from two straight men. However, I have now learned that many view them as representative of a loving gay relationship, and that's pretty wonderful. Thank you for helping me understand.
Exactly.
I mean, again, that's growth.
And there's always going to be room for, if you make one kind of statement, there are some people who will hold it against you for making one statement wrong your entire life. I am generally of the opinion, whether it's an actual person or a character, that if they do something that makes me no longer want to associate with them, I'm not going to waste any more brain space other than making a little check mark in my brain to say, I don't want to deal with this thing or this character or anymore, or this person. I will say, okay, it's a waste of my brain space to fixate on how much I don't like this thing or this person or this character. So I'm going to move on from it. I don't like this video, so I'm going to hit the back button on the browser and go find another video to watch. I don't like the way that this person speaks, so I'm not going to subscribe to their channel. It's really fucking simple, as it turns out, to not engage with the media and the people and whatnot that you don't like. Obviously, be critical. If there is someone who is out there spouting Nazi propaganda, maybe speak up against that and be like, okay, but this isn't okay, though. Yeah. That's one thing. But, like, someone doesn't like my favorite anime series? Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's not for them. It's for me. And that's all it has to be.
Yeah, so, and again, my mind instantly goes to, like, 2-hour-long videos. Your favorite series is trash, and here's why.
Like, I mean, I would do that, like, as a parody of that kind of thing. Like, your favorite series is trash, and here's why. And then I would open up with, actually, it's not trash, but here's why.
Yeah.
Here's why I need to, but here's why I said it like that, because it made you come here to check this video.
Oh, yeah.
But here are the problems with the thing that you want, but it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be the best. Nothing ever has to be the best. It just has to be something that brings you joy.
Yeah. In
some capacity. Great thing about social media, I saw a quote before about how, like, the internet is like, be critical role. Having to write a dissertation on why they are trash. That being said, there's bad and the bad, like, past a point of bad is, like, there's someone who says something you don't like, and then there's someone doing actual atrocity. Agreed. That's literally what I was saying. There are people that you can dislike, and it's just a personal thing. You don't like their personality. It's not that they're doing any harm to anyone. It's just, it's okay to just not like people. It's okay to not like a thing. Be open-minded, be willing to listen if someone says something has changed, but, like, if you decide that you don't want to associate with something and you don't want to engage with it and it's otherwise fairly harmless, that's also okay. It's okay to not like something without having to come up with an excuse for why you don't. Just don't like it. That's fine. Going to a big notice board in the middle of town, seeing a poster advertising guitar lessons, and then getting angry and tearing it down. Like, God, I don't want guitar lessons, though. Yes. Funny, clicking unsubscribe and unfollow is so easy, and ta-da! No more unwanted content. Agreed, Emmy. Absolutely perfect. This is it. This is literally the heart of it. If someone is literally harmless, if someone is not actually, like, advocating for atrocities or terrible behavior or actively harming people or using their platform to hurt people, like, it's really simple to just fucking keep to yourself and be like, okay, mental note, I don't want to deal with this person, or I don't want to deal with this thing, and move the fuck on. Life is considerably less stressful when you stop worrying about whether or not you care about someone that you don't even know.
I mean, that's just it. Like, at the end of the day, you do you, and
be the best you that you can be, but don't hold anyone else to the same standard, and advocate for the people who are potentially harmed by something.
Yeah.
Call the number on the poster and tell them guitar lessons are bad and playing guitar is bad. You literally described Twitter. I'm screaming. Yeah. On Twitter, you can say something like, I'm like banana, and someone who you never talk to ever would quote tweet you with, well, some of us are allergic, you fucking bitch. Yeah, I agree with that, Donna. There are some people who just cannot let go. And that's exactly the point that I'm making, is if you get to that point where you're getting so mad about, oh, thank you, Brian Gear, for subscribing.
Nice.
If you get to the point where you're just angry about things existing, like, is it worth the energy being mad? Like, okay, I say this having spent a good chunk of time today having talked about societal things that I don't really agree with, but I'm angry enough at them because they harm mass quantities of people as a result of that. But, like, generally speaking, is it, like, think about it, is it worth being mad about? Societal shit? Absolutely. It is absolutely worth being mad about. If it's affecting people to that scale, absolutely worth pointing out and being mad about it. But if someone's just saying shit that you find obnoxious, is it worth staying mad at that person forever? No.
Stop it. Get some help.
If someone has done something that hurt you, like, is it worth holding on to the fact that they hurt you? Or does that just end up making you miserable for a longer period of time? It's so much better to simply step back and say, okay, I'm not going to engage with this person anymore because they hurt me, but am I going to waste time fretting about it or being mad about it or, you know, just continually bringing it up in my brain? There really isn't a point to that. All that it does is make you angry and bitter and salty. Now, I am the self-proclaimed salt queen, but it's... sorry, just also catching up. Twitter is pretty good. Isn't losing your keys just the worst? And well, actually, starving is worse, but okay, Hitler. I think it's not just people, it's the space, the vibe, it's the Twitter atmosphere. You're supposed to come up with a better punchline at the detriment of everyone else, and it's exhausting. Agreed. Be conquered by the machines.
That's a hell of a name.
With a frisk face, no less.
I mean, that actually sounds like a fucking album name. Be conquered by the machines.
Honestly, yeah. That sounds like a punk group, and I love it. Where was my train of thought just now, though?
People should not lose their shit over meaningless shit.
Well, and yeah, there's... in terms of, like, being personally wronged by something versus just, in general, things existing out there, like... Again, addressing it critically on a case-by-case basis, is it worth keeping this thing that has made you upset in your brain? And, like, in cases where all you have to do is just basically go, no, I don't want to associate with this person. I'm repeating myself a little bit, but it's trying to go back to a specific point. My life, personally speaking, is better when I stopped measuring whether or not either someone else's opinion or the way that someone has treated me in the past matters to me anymore. Because there are things that have hurt me over the years. And there are some people that I will probably never associate again. Like, I can even think back to, like, high school, for example. There were people that were my close friends then who, when I went away to college, decided that I had done something to hurt them. They never clarified what it was, and while it bothers me, like, I don't know what it was. I can guess at a few different things about what might have made them upset with me. But, like, they never bothered to tell me. They pulled the, well, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you card with me. And it's like, is that worth continuing to be upset about to the present day? Is that worth holding on to? No, because they didn't even bother to try to work out whatever it was that I had done wrong. And I had reached out multiple times to try and make things work, and they decided, no, that's not how this is going to work. And so I was like, okay, well, thank you very much for the memories, and good luck with life.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is sometimes. And if you dwell on every last one of those things, like, that's one of those things that, especially if you're already prone to depression, will start to kind of consume you. It will stick in your mind for a very long time if you specifically try to hold on to those things. I got back from, I was thinking of the anime Crackhead, but I guess this is what I'm known for. Sometimes you can't help but being upset. I got back from that movie on 2L's trying to bring back the dead. Oh boy, I haven't cried in a movie since the Cars ripoff. Okay. That's a conversation you're apparently having. But yeah, sometimes you can't help being upset. Because here's the thing, emotional response is one thing, and remembering the harm that has been done to you is one thing. But if you're actively spending time trying to find ways to be upset at this thing that has happened, or if you spend the time and energy thinking about it, like, it is not a productive use of your energy. And as someone who only has so much productive emotional and mental energy to focus on things, if I spent my time on every last grudge that I have, I would have nothing left to ever be productive or functioning, even. But I will say, having said that, to clarify, being upset by something and being reminded of it and having that emotional response isn't in itself either something to be condemned or to be ashamed of or anything like that. An emotional response is there for a reason. You're not just spontaneously deciding to hurt. But it's one of those, I have had, in terms of my own mental maintenance, have had to work out a system of thinking to myself, is this worth holding on to? I had to do the fucking Marie Kondo thing, is like, does this spark joy? It doesn't, so I'm not going to keep it in my brain. Sometimes think back of past stuff that literally helped shape you in a bad way and still be so angry at the people who did wrong by me a long time ago because they did much more than they think. I know, but also sometimes stuff aren't easy to... No, I know. Like, that's kind of what I was saying. There are things that shape you. I have been shaped by my bad experiences just as I have been the good. And I will remember those things. Like, that stuff's not going away just because I have chosen to move on from it. It becomes a daily routine of going to myself, going through my own mind, and sorting out my box and being like, okay, I want to keep this, I don't want to keep this. This is okay, this is what I don't need, this is important for me to remember, even if it hurts me, but I'm not going to dwell on this. I sometimes cry to myself to sleep because I thought, Kappa will, I'm starting to think that you're not a serious person, be conquered by the machines.
Possibly.
But everything about mental health and mental energy and sanity and whether or not it's worth holding on to, it's all very individual. You are the only one who can decide what you need or want to hold on to. And I can't tell you what to do with that. I can make suggestions based on my own experience, but ultimately you decide what is useful for you to hold on to and remember and what doesn't help you. Or things that you need to remember because they shaped something important about you. This is in itself, one of those difficult and not easy to manage things. If this were easy to manage, we would not have psychiatrists, This wouldn't be a profession that people go to school for to try and fucking figure out. this would be just like, oh, okay, so I know what to do now. And I will even say, the people whose job it is to help you, their advice is basically literally the exact same thing that I've been saying. Is it useful to hold on to this? And is there a way to move past this without necessarily letting go of the way that it has shaped you? And is it okay to be upset by certain things? Absolutely. You can't help how you feel. You can mitigate it a little bit, but feeling something is in itself not a bad thing. Feeling is a feeling, and that is the emotional response based on either very real trauma or a real experience. It's not like it comes out of nowhere. Unfortunately, our brains like to make wonky connections sometimes, and that's where you start making some judicious application of your experiences.
As a neuroscientist, I can attest.
I mean, I think we all have issues, but anyway. Just responding to someone in the chat, for those of you who are listening post-recording here. We all have issues, but that's just it. Like, find the things that are important to you and determine for yourself what is not important. But it's okay to have the way that you feel about things. Like, I have my own personal triggers, which are sometimes utterly ridiculous. I have rejection-sensitive dysphoria, which means that literally even if my brain decides that someone has rejected me for something, I will be miserable. I will be usually pretty instantly, although, again, I have been getting help with that, but either way. And perceiving that someone has rejected me will sometimes send me into emotional tailspin that I have to take the time to sort out what's going on. I can't control the tailspin necessarily. All I can do is basically do damage control. Mitigate it as best as I can. Do my best to make sure that this is a behavior, that this is not a behavior problem so much as just me dealing with something that was based on very real trauma in my life. I forgot that Griffin is a neuroscientist. Rejection sensitivity sucks. Psychiatrists, though, can help give you a lot of perspective. Absolutely. I have been in enough therapy to know. Genuinely. Yeah. Someone would end a message with a dot, and I'd be like, there it is, the world hates me. Yep, it is a mood. It is a mood, and that's just it. It is so easy to like, for the brain to decide, okay, time to be upset about it, and, like, you consciously are like, what, but why? And the brain goes, upset time, and you're like, wait, no, I don't want to be upset, and the brain goes, well, too bad. And it's like, well, I guess I'm going on this ride for a little while. Awesome. It sucks. And the feelings that you feel in a moment like that are not invalid, even if it's from something that is not easily, does not necessarily have a direct correlation in terms of the stimulation in the first place, but the trigger in itself was planted from something else. It's not something that is a direct one-to-one thing. All it does is have to kind of touch on a nerve in order to set it off, and that's often enough. Your feelings are valid. The way that you choose to act on them is a completely different matter.
Yeah. Also, Don, to answer your question, I am, in fact. I have a master's degree in behavioral neuroscience, biological psychology specifically, and I apply that in my my day-to-day job.
Yeah. And let's see. Yep. Okay. Okay, sorry, I was just dealing with something.
Yeah,
Someone was
spamming.
Someone is not only spamming, but very clearly, like, not an active, engaged person in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's literally, like, that's the inspiration, is, like, he is emotional, dragged kicking and screaming into emotional roller coasters. Thanks, brain. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, he's spent the years in school to do the brain sciencey thing.
Yeah, my master's thesis was basically on the possible change in concentration of a specific the expression of a specific gene in the central nervous system between young and old groups of zebrafish.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, a gene that regulates the depletion of adult neural stem cells.
Those are a lot of words.
They are, in fact.
But he does know what he's talking about. Wait, that's not.
Well, I'd like to imagine so.
Sometimes you know what you're talking about.
Sometimes.
They studied that. Cool bananas. Yeah, no, he is a smarty.
I have my days.
Sometimes, yes. But you're a smart person. Whether or not I agree with all of your smartness is a completely different matter, but...
True.
But everyone also has different intelligences.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad more fucking learning... Not nearly enough, but more and more learning institutions are picking up on the theory of multiple intelligences.
Oh, yeah. And I wholeheartedly agree. Let's see, why are my emotions like this? My brain. That is a very good question. I agree, John Morrison. The brain...
Neuroplasticity is a big contributing factor, I'll say that.
Oh, yeah. The way that our brain chooses to adapt and store information is so uniquely specific that's why it's taking us forever to understand the comings and goings of the brain, is because it is so ridiculously complex that we do not have the ability to even store all of the data that our brain currently contains.
And there are some crazy motherfuckers out there who want to fucking map the connectome of all the dendritic connections we form over our lives.
It's a lot of words again.
Yeah, basically, people want to map the brain the same way we've mapped the genome.
And
which
it's...
ain't happening anytime soon because it's so fucking complicated. And when I say complicated, I mean that there are more synaptic connections between the cells in our brains over one person's lifespan than there are stars in the known universe.
Yep. Basically, the brain's super complex, so as much as we do try to understand things, as much as we work at actually understanding how our own minds work, it really is very much a... you try to figure things out and you go to a psychiatrist who has like something of a dowsing rod to try and figure out where things are going. But sometimes I have known some psychiatrists to be kind of like, shit, man, I don't know.
I mean, that's just it. It's a case-by-case basis. And I'll even say this, Don. I'm still trying to figure out how to fix my brain.
Yeah.
I'll take the money once I can figure that much out.
Yeah, the best thing that I can honestly recommend at this point, until we end up actually finding a way to quote-unquote fix brains, which I feel in itself is one of those, you can't fix. You can't fix a brain.
Yeah.
Like, other than literally physically repairing a brain, you can't fix a brain. A brain simply is, and if it happens to be, for example, if you are neurodivergent, or neuroatypical, that's not in itself like a bad thing. People try to treat it literally like it's a life or death thing, but honestly, it's just that you see the world in a different perspective, and sometimes it takes some work, like anything else, to figure out how to kind of map back into the wider community, but it's not in itself the worst thing ever.
Oh yeah, and even from a physiological standpoint, like, the brain has a series of checks and balances when it comes to quote-unquote fixing itself. And again, that sort of delves into what my thesis was on. And even then, it's not a perfectly oiled machine in that regard. I mean, to give you an example, and I know this is going to go into big wordy territory for a little bit, so I apologize in advance. But
well, I before you get started, I do want to respond to Emily before you go into that, because otherwise I'm going to forget. So what you said there, Emmy, there's no fixing, only mitigation and adaptation, and also conditioning. That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
All you can do is respond to it in the moment and do what you can to try and condition yourself to respond to it in a better way going forward. That is all that therapy honestly ends up really teaching you. And it can give you perspective on what's going on. But yes, mitigation, adaptation, and conditioning yourself. Anyway, feel free to get back in.
Fuck house, and we're still trying to figure it out.
So, Griffin, wordy rant, go.
All right, so my neuroscientist is going into full gear here. Basically, like, when it comes to the checks and balances of the brain fixing itself, there's basically, well, two main branches of the nervous system. There's the central and the peripheral. And the peripheral nervous system is everything that extends from the brain and spinal cord, which makes it the central. And the peripheral nervous system has a fantastic fucking system of, regenerative capacity. Because with the axons of your neurons, which is to say the long dangly parts that connect the main core of the neuron, or brain cell rather, the axons have these things along the lining called Schwann cells, which basically allow for regeneration in the event of the axon being severed, which is to say, basically, if the long dangly part of a neuron gets cut, like maybe if your arm gets cut off or something to that effect, if you manage to get the arm back on and kind of connect it, and you align the axons enough, the Schwann cells will allow for at least a minor degree of regeneration of the neurons, so that you'll be able to actually feel again, and actually continue the sending of electrochemical signals to those neurons, and it'll not be entirely good as new, but it will still be usable. The regeneration is still that fucking advanced, which is mind-blowing in and of itself. The central nervous system is not nearly so lucky, which is why, damage to the spine and, the brainstem and all that is as serious as it is, because there are no such systems of regeneration for the central nervous system. I mean, granted, we do have a certain degree of regenerative capacity for the central nervous system.
And we're working on new things to actually help that actually come along, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's just it. It's one of the things I was researching was adult neural stem cells. Because, contrary to popular belief, stem cells actually exist in adult organisms, in addition to, because most people think of embryonic stem cells, which is basically, the stem cells that are still trying to figure out what the fuck it is they want to do in a developing life form.
I appreciate the lesson on neuroscience that you're giving us. However, I also kind of want to say maybe we should dismount this particular lesson. If you want to do a video where you talk about brain stuff, please go ahead.
Not a bad idea.
That would actually be, and also even in character for the logician, no less.
I mean, it'll come into play anyway. I'll say
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah, especially in terms of what they agree to do in this upcoming video coming out tomorrow. Okay.
Nudge, nudge.
I would love to watch brain stuff videos. And it's not that I don't want you to talk about this, Griffin. It's just I'm at the point where I'm starting to have my eyes glaze over at what you're talking about. And it's okay, this is way too much like college. Go away. I am not in college, and that is somewhat by choice at this point. But absolutely, you have a lot of insight into this, and it's useful insight, and I have no doubt that a lot of people would be, in fact, very excited to hear about your thoughts on all of this. I just kind of want to move it back into more general topic stuff.
That's fair. I mean, I'm just flashing back to every time I try and have a deep political conversation with Gale Rice. He sort of gets glazed over a little as well. Bless his heart.
Yeah, he is in his own way. Again, smart dude.
Yeah, go subscribe to Gale Rice.
Yeah, watch his videos and actually go to Newgrounds and check out his stuff there. That's where a lot of his newer animations and stuff like that is going.
Yes, and contribute to his Patreon.
Contribute to his Patreon. Absolutely support it. Again, we could absolutely fucking take sponsored deals here. We just, for free, we're happy to fucking promote people,
Because we're all in the same shit bucket and we're trying to claw our ways out.
Yeah. So, anyway, all this is to say, if your brain is fighting you on certain things, it's okay to be affected by that. It's okay to have to kind of navigate your way through it. It's okay to have to take a minute to kind of work out, how you feel on a regular enough basis. It is hard enough for people who are fucking professionals to map out everything that is associated with the brain and its fuckery. It's hard enough that people who have spent years getting their doctorates on the subject to even fucking navigate whether or not what something is. And you will often find there are going to be doctors who are like, shit, man, this is all news to me. And they get excited about that. They will be like, oh, cool, there's this new thing to explore. Let's learn about it. But it's complicated. And if you don't know how to navigate it, you're in good company. From professionals and your fellow brain explorers alike. We're all in this same boat. We're all doing what we can to just try and function day to day. And it's okay to get caught up in your feelings and your emotions. It's, again, whether or not you choose to, 1, address it and addressing the root cause of it, and 2, whether or not you choose to act on it.
Yeah.
Acting on it, not a great idea. Please do not. Certain actions, obviously. I don't have a problem with certain actions. It's okay to, if someone has upset you directly, here's the action that you can take. So, even if it's not them deliberately trying to hurt you, you can say, I'm really sorry about this. Something that you said happens to fit in with a personal trigger of mine. It was upsetting, and I know it wasn't your fault, but I wanted to clarify for the sake of my own mind whether or not you meant this, or if I am just overthinking this. Because if you get clarification about whether or not someone actually meant or didn't mean something, then you can decide from there how to respond and how to address it. But trying to assume what someone else's intentions are, and I'm saying this as someone who is very guilty of doing this. I know because I've had to stop myself from doing it. But actually bringing up your concerns with the person who has potentially raised them is a far healthier response than deciding for yourself what it was that they meant and assuming their intentions and everything like that, because it'll just make you more miserable. That is an action that you can take that externalizes the conflict without necessarily holding someone accountable or blaming them or taking an action that hurts both of you.
Yeah.
There are certain actions that are absolutely good to take. But anyway. And it's all tricky shit, so if you fuck up, don't worry. Fuck up and then do what you can to fix it, basically.
That's just it. Adulthood is just a series of fuck-ups and learning from them.
That's literally it.
Yeah, that's literally pretty much the core differences between childhood and adulthood is experience from fuck-ups and taxes.
And I would like to do away with the taxes thing. Not just because they're stupid and complicated, but because we literally don't need currency, so let's do away with taxes.
Yeah.
But
And that's just it. And let me stress this, the fuck-ups never stop.
no.
You're going to be perpetually fucking up throughout the course of your life, regardless of how experienced you get. And that's okay. Because, again, that's how we learn. And if you go your entire life without fucking up, there's something wrong.
Yeah. And I even think I use this example all of the time as an example of someone who never screwed up while trying to learn something. When I was in high school, when I was 15 or 16, I was taking a chemistry class. And the thing is, I have dyscalculia, which means that things that involve either patterns or formula or formulae or math in particular will fuck me up. I can't wrap my brain around it. And chemistry, you may have noticed, involves a lot of formulae.
Especially organic chem.
Uh-huh.
For another day.
So I was struggling in the class. And I struggled in terms of both with homework, but that was because of a depression thing, as well as understanding the material. It didn't come intuitively to me. And at one point, this teacher, who has literally never had a problem with the subject of chemistry, who's never had to struggle in terms of learning anything, at one point actually said to 15, 16-year-old me, I don't get why you're not getting this. I've covered it in class. So I don't understand what you're not getting about this. And I was so mortified that I completely tuned out for the rest of the fucking semester. I didn't care about that class, and I pretty much absolutely failed it. Because the teacher basically made me think that I was the fuck up for not being able to understand it exactly the way that she was presenting it. Now, for someone who has fucked up, a teacher who has fucked up in their life, who has had to struggle with actually figuring out how things work, they're much more likely to go, okay, so telling it to you this way didn't work. Let's try another way of doing this. And they'll find a new way of communicating with the student or the person who is struggling in a way that actually helps the lesson to stick. And it's because they've suffered not knowing what to do and have had to find alternative solutions.
Yeah, and that's the incredible thing about fucking up, because, again, big shocker, when you fuck up, not only do you learn for yourself, but you also realize, hey, I can pass this on to some other people, so maybe they won't fuck up as much.
Or at least if they do fuck up, I can give them a way to walk back out of it again.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing, because it just reminded me of my high school chemistry teacher who had a similar approach to teaching. The dude used to be a football coach, and I forget what the fucking circumstances were, but he eventually became a chemistry teacher, and he would oftentimes, like, if people gave incorrect answers to, like, a question he was asking, he would bring up what he believed to be an equivalent, like, how many legs does a three-legged dog have? You know, shit like that.
Yeah.
Which was interesting, but the contrast was he would also give, like, credit to people if he graded incorrectly on a test and they showed him how he fucked up with the grading. He was like, oh, yeah, no, you're right. You have me there. Good job.
And that's just it. Being able to admit when you may have fucked up about something helps you in life a lot. And this is one of those things that I've noticed is one of the big problems with the internet in terms of, like, again, purity culture. Interesting that it cycles back to this. That if you mess up once, then you have messed up forever. But as opposed to, I have fucked up, but hang on, here's how I come back from it. Here's how I grow from it. Here's what I've learned from fucking up. You learn a lesson a hell of a lot more when you have it stick out to you that you didn't get it on your first go.
Also, I think he taught us how to make ethyl alcohol from wine, which was...
You know, this is reminding me of a fucking science teacher that I had in middle school who was very much like... He was, like, literally a genius. Like, actually certifiably a genius. And he was very clearly bored having to teach kids. But, like, he was one of those asshats that were basically like, if you're not on my level, then I'm not going to worry too much about you.
Okay.
But the thing is, I remember on one of the first days that I had his class, like, he asked, why donated eggs from, I guess, female-bodied, and I use that term very loosely, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Are more valuable and given more money than, say, donated sperm. And I raised my hand and I said, because the ovary only produces a set number of eggs in its lifetime. And he had the immediate eyebrow raise of approval, because he wasn't expecting anyone in the class to know this, because, again, this was middle school. I think it was 8th grade? Yeah, 8th grade. But yeah, no, like, they raised eyebrows and he said, very good. He was not expecting anyone to know that shit. Biology was pretty much always my best subject anyway.
Okay, I think I've told you about my high school physics professor, right? Or teacher, rather.
Probably.
Yeah, he was... Because he brought up quirky teachers, and my mind immediately went to this fucker. Which, again, I can't really complain about the guy too much. He was a good teacher, more or less. He was never really overly critical or anything. I guess the most frustrating part about it was there wasn't really any consistent syllabus for what the fuck we were going to be doing in classes, and he was sort of casual, I suppose, with what people could get away with. Like, I remember once during, like, it was a lunch break or something, I was eating in the classroom, and there were these, like, 2 or 3 dudes who were putting out lines of Tang, like the powdered orange drink, on the table, and they're getting ready to snort it, and I'm thinking, oh my god, these fucking idiots.
You're gonna get hurt that way. Don't do that.
Oh yeah, and then I see the physics teacher walk in. I'm like, okay, thankfully he'll put a stop to this. He walks up to them and goes, "Yeah, man, go, go, go!"
Learn the hard way that that's not what you want to do to yourself.
I mean, that's just it. Who better to teach you than a physics teacher?
Like, okay, if you do this, you're gonna hurt.
Yeah, I will say, like, to a lesser degree, like, my structural kinesiology professor in undergrad was similar, but he actually had his shit, like, structured. It was basically like having, like, Jim Carrey with a doctorate as your teacher. It was entertaining as hell, and he made things fairly easy to understand.
Oh, no.
I believe he may have been on the panel of my thesis presentation. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. So, I found an ant, and the pounding that you've been hearing has been me trying to kill the thing.
Okay, I heard a pounding and I heard, I thought, did she fuck up on something?
No, the reason I was going that is because the attempt to kill it didn't kill it, it just kept it from being able to move.
I mean, ants are strong fuckers, so...
They are, but, like, I felt like, okay, I've cried over moths before. Like, I accidentally killed a moth and I was distraught, and it was, like, not long after that my friend called, and I was, like, actually crying, and he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I killed a moth! And he's like, okay.
You wanted lamp.
I felt so bad. But I don't want any animal to suffer, okay? And yes,
I'm the same.
An ant is... I know, although I will say your fucking reaction time on that one spider was fucking amazing.
Oh, that was...
But...
I mean, again, I didn't want to... My instinct is generally not to kill, but I know they bother you, so...
Yeah. But just, like, the fucking... I saw you kick the door, and I was like, what did the door do to you? And you're like, there's a spider.
I mean, I'll say this. There's a reason arthropods are the most evolutionarily successful organisms on this fucking planet. It's because they can adapt.
Yep. And humans are very rapidly making it impossible for us to be able to adapt to the changing atmosphere. Oh, wait, whoops, that's a political conversation again. Well,
I mean, I'll say this, like arthropods are interesting fuckers in that regardless of what the conditions are, they can generally get by. I mean, the only major difference between arthropods now and how they were millions of years ago is the degree of oxygen we have in our atmosphere. The reason they were so fucking huge is because there was a fuck ton more oxygen, and now there's less in the atmosphere, and so subsequently they have gotten smaller. And the biggest they get nowadays is the coconut crab.
so I want to even fucking point out, because it's going to pop up on the stream shortly, the kind of, like, I haven't noticed significant growth as an artist, like, as I've been going. But this thing, which I don't exactly remember how long ago I made it would have been, like, the last year or so, versus the current adaptation of, like, obviously there's stylistic changes, but, like, also you can see my growth as an artist, just comparing the two.
You are still getting better.
Sharks! Don't forget sharks! Most biologically unchanged for a million... There's I think it's crocodiles?
Yeah, and I think the main reason for that is the fuckers spend most of their time in the water, so there are fewer changing variables.
Well, I mean, they haven't needed to change, they haven't needed to evolve. I would love it if sharks could evolve to actually kill the fucking humans that keep trying to genocide them, but, like, you know...
soup ain't worth it, guys. I hate to tell you.
I love how angry Gordon Ramsay has been on the subject. Like, to straight up go everywhere that he can to negate these people pulling this shit.
I mean, mind you, this is the dude who has, like, hunted puffins on cliff sides just for TV.
Yeah. I'm still not over the time he fucking climbed that tree for the ants.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. Like, you and I both have our mixed feelings about Gordon Ramsay, but if nothing else, I can appreciate that the fucker doesn't want an ecological and environmental fucking catastrophe to go down because people have to have their fucking shark fin soup.
Jesus. So, now that I have finished this one image, and now you guys know how long it takes me to do art for certain things. So next time you see, like, for example, the next Ballad of Loreley premiering tomorrow, knowing how much work goes into... I mean, I don't do the same kind of, like, shading and everything that I do for, like, this, but, like, how much work goes into making it look the way that it does, and why it's taken me a fucking year to release this episode. outside of other complications and other shit going on. It's that art takes time to do, and I wish I was better at it. I wish I was faster at it. But now you guys have a snapshot of how long it takes me to do this, and also the kind of, well, I guess basically I still enjoy doing it. I want to emphasize that. It was like, you better appreciate it. No, it's, I am actually literally comparing these two, because it's like, I have grown as an artist. That's actually really cool to see. So, on that note, it has now been 2.5 hours since I started this stream, and this is pretty much exactly how I wanted it to go. Like, I knew that I wasn't going to be super good concentration for, like, playing games or something like that today. I was just not in a good place for that. Plus, this is productive, and this is going to be going to stuff for the channel.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate all y'all who came out to watch today. I mean, again, it's just one of those things where I've said it before earlier in the stream, and I say it every time. You can look back and see all of the recorded videos where I say this, but you guys being here actually makes a huge difference. Both you in the chat as well as you, Griffin and Call. But it is something that I do enjoy. And the only reason why I don't do something is genuinely when my health has gotten to the point where I can't do something. Or because...
He's donated another $2.
Oh! Well, I guess that'll pop up in a second.
Yeah.
Thank you! That literally echoed right after I said thank you. I said thank you, and it's thank you so much for your support. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys, those of you who came by today, I'm glad if you guys have had fun. I'm glad if you guys have learned something, either from me being angry about politics or Griffin talking about brain stuff for a while. I'm genuinely glad to be doing what I do. Like, it is... I know maybe this is not the coolest thing in the world, but it is very fulfilling for me to be able to see people's reactions, to be able to see whether or not I am doing something that affects people's lives for the better, I hope. And even just entertaining both myself and other people for a short amount of time. But I enjoy doing this, and I enjoy what I do for the channel, and I appreciate that as I go about enjoying the stuff that I'm doing, that other people are along for the ride. So, yeah. I'm going to be calling it here. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Griffin, for once again joining me as a co-host for this stream.
Always a pleasure.
And again, I keep advertising it, but tomorrow on Sirenia Studios is a new Ballad of Loreley, brand new Ballad of Loreley, one that has not yet been released. And I'm going to even say this, watch it with the captions on. There are some interesting bonuses if you have the captions on. Just saying. But that should be fun, and I should be hopefully keeping to the update schedule of once every couple of weeks, or basically every other week. Yeah. But, alright. I will hopefully see you guys next week for further stream and enjoyment and entertainment. Goodbye, everyone.
Take care.